I've been rewatching the House of the Dragon Season 2 trailers a few times this last week and going back through some of the leaks and rumours looking for answers regarding the question of today's video. What the hell is going on with Maelor Targaryen in House of the Dragon? Why was he not in Season 1? Will he be in Season 2? And the huge impact this could have on the story if it does turn out he's been cut from the show. Now, for the sake of context, Maelor Targaryen is the second son and youngest child of King Aegon II and Queen Haelena, born in the year 127 AC, making him around 2 years old when the Dance of the Dragons starts. Maelor, despite being a toddler, plays an important role in the story, specifically during the Blood and Cheese incident, which we should be seeing in the first episode of Season 2 of House of the Dragon. A lot of fans regard Blood and Cheese as one of the moments of the Dance of the Dragons that could perhaps equate to the likes of the Red Wedding from the main book series in terms of the shocking nature of it, with its brutality and, well, surprise factor. It's a very important part of the story, and something I know the showrunners know they have to get right if they want to truly tell a balanced story in terms of the black and green factions, and the horrific acts each side enacts on the other. For me, when I read Fire and Blood for the first time, I started off as a huge fan of the black faction, for Blood and Cheese then to utterly flip the table, where I then favour the Greens. And a few horrific acts and war crimes later, I just embrace the fact that both sides of this conflict is made up of awful people. So, you may be wondering, how does Maelor Targaryen fit into all of this? Well, so far from Season 1, there is no indication that Maelor has yet been born, with Jaehaerys and Jaehaera only briefly being seen. The Season 2 trailer and some behind-the-scene leaks also give us no indication that Maelor exists in the show, given the timeline the show is working with. There certainly hasn't been enough time for him to have been born off-screen between Season 1 and the start of Season 2, given Helaena would need to be visibly pregnant at the end of the first season. If it is the case that Maelor does not exist in the show, well, it's fundamentally going to affect the way the show portrays Blood and Cheese. And this has gotten many fans worried that we might be getting a very watered down version of it that lacks the impact of the books. While I don't think that's fair to say until we have actually seen it, I can understand the sentiment given how important Maelor's role is in it. Now, Blood and Cheese refers to the monikers used by two men who were responsible for the assassination of Prince Jaehaerys Targaryen, the eldest son of King Aegon II and Queen Haelena, under the orders of Daemon Targaryen, as retaliation for the death of Lucerys Velaryon at the hands of Aemon Targaryen. In the words of Daemon, a son for a son. What makes this more than simply a murder is the sheer brutality of the death, but also the psychological aspect at play as well, and this is where Maelor fits into events. Present at the scene are Alicent, Helaena, the twins Jaehaerys and Jaehaera, Helaena, and of course the 2-year-old Maelor Targaryen. The short version is Blood and Cheese hold them all captive in the Queen's chambers while remaining undetected. They tell Helaena that they're going to kill one of her sons and that she has to choose which one dies or they kill them all. Being the king's heir, she chooses to save Jaehaerys and condemn Maelor to death. However, in a twist, Blood and Cheese tell Maelor that his mother wants him to die before proceeding to behead Jaehaerys instead, to the horror of everyone. What makes it even worse is Blood and Cheese then manage to escape. While Blood is captured, Cheese is never found. Part of what makes Blood and Cheese the shocking moment that it is the impact it has on Helaena as a character, and the frankly impossible choice of her having to pick between her sons. The issue here is, given the pace of which House of the Dragon moved through the first season, I can only recall 1 or 2 scenes in which we see Helaena with her children, or even really see the children at all. To make it as impactful as it should be, they're really going to have to spend some time in this opening episode of Season 2 with Helaena and her children to give the viewers a chance to connect and care about them a bit more. As we know from the episode title, Blood and Cheese will be happening in that first episode. Without that bond established, Blood and Cheese is not going to carry the same emotional punch to the gut the books did if you're simply relying on the empathy of the audience to characters we have spent little time with. However, I'd hope the sheer horror of a child being beheaded in front of his mother would be enough to get the point across to the vast majority of viewers. But that does not take away from the fact that we'll have to do a lot of work in that first episode with Helaena and their children if they want the moment to reach its full potential. Now, if the show is in fact cutting Maelor, for me it really waters down what Blood and Cheese is. Part of what makes it so impactful is giving Helaena the choice between Jaehaerys and Maelor, and then double-crossing her. Well, yes, the moment can still work without Maelor, making it a simple assassination, removing the Sophie's choice aspect, but without making Helaena choose, it really does take away from the moment. Now, while timeline-wise, I'm not sure how it would work, it is possible they might just retroactively add in Maelor, like they're going to do with Daeron Targaryen eventually. Maelor is represented in the family tree in the title sequence after all. They very well could just add him in and not address it at all. But if they do remove Maelor, I could see a situation where either Blood and Cheese is a straight up assassination, or rather than Helaena having to choose between Jaehaerys and Maelor, in the show she could be made to choose between Jaehaerys and her daughter Jaehaera, with her choosing her daughter to die, with Jaehaerys being Aegon's son and heir. This would also really play well into the psychological and mental damage Jaehaera suffers as a child as a result of the Dance of the Dragons. In general, I do think going down this road would work really well if we do in fact lose Maelor. But if Maelor is cut from the show, it doesn't just impact Blood and Cheese, as we'd also likely lose Bitterbridge, which is the brutal death of Maelor, as he is ripped apart by a mob of small folk, as Sir Rickard Thorne, one of Aegon's Kingsguard, is trying to get him to safety in Old Town. It truly is a horrific moment in the books, and leaves an impact on some of the characters. For example, there are some accounts that Rhaenyra is deeply saddened and distressed when Maelor's head is brought to her, while other accounts say she was happy, but it could be used as this really somber moment to get across the cost of war on the characters. It also adds fuel to the fire that is Aegon's rage and motivation, that same rage and motivation that drives him to fight for his crown while planning on Dragonstone, after the fall of King's Landing. But as much as I want to see Bitterbridge, it's definitely something I could see getting cut and written around. I hope we see Maelor. I don't really mind if he just appears out of nowhere at the start of Season 2. Blood and Cheese will be different without him. However, if he is in fact cut, as we've discussed, there are still ways to make Blood and Cheese work and have an impact the fans expect, even if the context of it is changed. It's not long now till Season 2 comes out, and we may very well get more information between now and then. But what I want to know is what you guys think of all this. Let me know in the comments.